The Mnths. One morning, several years later, Carr lay asleep on the porch. It was in the early summer, the season of light nights, and it was as bright as day, although the sun was not yet up. Carr was awakened by someone calling his name. "Is it you, Gryskn?" he asked, for he was accustomed to the elk's nightly visits. Again he heard the call. Then he recognized Gryskn's voice and hastened in the direction of the sound. Carr heard the elf's footfalls in the distance as he dashed into the thickest pine wood and straight through the brush, following no trodden path. Carr could not catch up with him, and he had great difficulty in even following the trail. "Carr! Carree!" came the cry, and the voice was certainly Gryskn's, although it had a ring now which the dog had never heard before. I'm coming, the dog responded. "Where are you?" "Carr, Carr, Carr! Don't you see how it falls and falls?" said Gryskn. Then Carr noticed that the pine needles kept dropping and dropping from the tree like a steady fall of rain. "Yes, I see how it falls," he cried, and ran far into the forest in search of the elk. Gryskn kept running through the thickets, while Carr was about to lose the trail again. "Carr, Carr!" roared Gryskn. "Can't you scent that peculiar odor in the forest?" Carr stopped and sniffed. He had not thought of it before, but now he remarked that the pine sent forth a much stronger odor than usual. "Yes, I can catch the scent," he said. He did not stop long enough to find out the cause of it, but hurried on after Gryskn. The elk ran ahead with such speed that the dog could not catch up with him. "Carr, Carr!" he called. "Can't you hear the crunching on the pines?" Now his tone was so plaintive it would have melted a stone. Carr paused to listen. He heard a faint but distinct tap-tap on the trees. It sounded like the ticking of a watch. "Yes, I hear how it ticks!" cried Carr, and ran no farther. He understood that the elk did not want him to follow, but to take notice of something that was happening in the forest. Carr was standing beneath the drooping branches of a great pine. He looked carefully at it. The needles moved. He went closer and saw a mass of grayish-white caterpillars creeping along the branches, gnawing off the needles. Every branch was covered with them. The crunch in the trees came from the working of their busy little jaws. Gnawed-off needles fell to the ground in a continuous shower, and from the poor pines there came such a strong odor that the dog suffered from it. "What can be the meaning of this?" wondered Carr. "It's too bad about the pretty trees. Soon they'll have no beauty left." He walked from tree to tree, trying with his poor eyesight to see if all was well with them. "There's a pine they haven't touched," he thought, but they had taken possession of it too. "And here's a birch. No, this also. The gamekeeper will not be pleased with this," observed Carr. He ran deeper into the thickets to learn how far the destruction had spread. Wherever he went, he heard the same ticking, scented the same odor, saw the same needle rain. There was no need of his pausing to investigate. He understood it all by these signs. The little caterpillars were everywhere. The whole forest was being ravaged by them. All of a sudden he came to a tract where there was no odor, and where all was still. "Here's the end of their domain," thought the dog, as he paused and glanced about. But here it was even worse, for the caterpillars had already done their work, and the trees were needleless. They were like the dead. The only thing that covered them was a network of ragged threads, which the caterpillars had spun to use as roads and bridges. In there, among the dying trees, Gryskn stood waiting for Carr. He was not alone. With him were 4 old elk, the most respected in the forest. Carr knew them. They were Crookback, who was a small elk, but a larger hump than the others; Antlercrown, who was the most dignified of the elks; Roughmane, with the thick coat; and an old long-legged one, who, up until autumn before, when he had got a bullet in his thigh, had been terribly hot-tempered and quarrelsome. "What in the world is happening to the forest?" Carr asked them when he came up to the elk. They stood with lowered heads, far protruding upper lips, and looked puzzled. "No one can tell," answered Gryskn. "This insect family used to be the least hurtful of any in the forest, and never before have they done any damage. But these last few years they've been multiplying so fast that now it appears as if the entire forest would be destroyed." "Yes, it looks bad," Carr agreed. But I see that the wisest animals in the forest have come together to hold a consultation. Perhaps you've already found some remedy? When the dog said this, Crookback solemnly raised his heavy head, pricked up his long ears, and spoke. We have summoned you hither, Carr, that we may learn if the humans know of this desolation. No, said Carr. No human being ever comes thus far into the forest when it's not hunting time. They know nothing of this misfortune. Then Antler Crown said, We who have lived long in the forest do not think that we can fight this insect pest all by ourselves. After this there will be no peace in the forest, put in Roughmane. But we can't let the whole Liberty Forest go to rack and ruin, protested Big and Strong. We have to consult the humans. There is no alternative. Carr understood that the elk had difficulty in expressing what they wished to say, and he tried to help them. Perhaps you want me to let the people know the conditions here, he suggested. All the old elk nodded their heads. It's most unfortunate that we are obliged to ask help of human beings, but we have no choice. A moment later, Carr was on his way home. As he ran ahead, deeply distressed over all he had heard and seen, a big black water snake approached them. Well met in the forest, hissed the water snake. Well met again, snarled Carr, and rushed by without stopping. The snake turned and tried to catch up to him. Perhaps this creature also is worried about the forest, thought Carr, and waited. Immediately the snake began to talk about the great disaster. There will be an end of peace and quiet in the forest when the human beings are called hither, said the snake. I'm afraid there will be, the dog agreed, but the oldest forest dwellers know what they're about, he added. I think I know a better plan, said the snake, if I can get the reward I wish. Are you not the one everyone around here calls Old Helpless? Said the dog sneeringly. I'm an old inhabitant of the forest, said the snake, and I know how to get rid of such plagues. If you clear the forest of that pest, I feel sure that you can have anything you ask for, said Carr. The snake did not respond to this until he had crawled under a tree stump where he was well protected. Then he said, Tell Gryskn that if he will leave Liberty Forest forever and go far north where no oak trees grow, I will send sickness and death to all the creeping things that gnaw the pines and spruces. What's that you say? Asked Carr, bristling up. What harm has Gryskn ever done you? He has slain the one I loved best, the snake declared, and I want to be avenged. Before the snake had finished speaking, Carr made a dash for him, but the reptile lay safely hidden under the tree stump. Stay where you are, Carr concluded. We'll manage to drive out the caterpillars without your help.